Good evening, everyone. Richard Cowperthwait for Northwest Access TV. Thanks for joining us for our September show, first Wednesday of the month, September 4, 2019. This is the For the Record St. Albans Today show. And happy to have guests representing St. Albans City and St. Albans Town, St. Albans Mayor Tim Smith and St. Albans Town Select Board Chairman Brendan Deso. Thanks, gentlemen.
Hello, Richard.
Good to see you.
Likewise.
Some stormy weather this morning. Looks like a nice stretch of weather coming up. If we can get by today, okay.
Yeah, hopefully. Yeah, it was dark this morning.
Yeah, nothing like waking up to a good thunderstorm. Boy, Tim, it's hard not to start with crime. Just seems like St. Albans has been getting kind of more than its share of some, just not the best news. I guess the most recent significant incident, a stabbing earlier this week, early morning hours. Local stabbing with, a Springfield, Massachusetts man, and perhaps his accomplice may be still being sought. Correct me, again, one of the TV reports on this, I think it was maybe Fox 44, ABC 22, but I thought the reporter referenced, and again, we've been through St. Albans having a relatively high crime rate, which I think the city certainly tried to deal with. I think the reporter mentioned, unless I misunderstood her, that the St. Albans crime rate around here was like 5 times the state average. That sounds crazy. Did you happen to hear? Again, this is one report, and maybe I misheard it. Just that kind of jumped out at me when I heard that.
I did not see that.
Anyway,
yeah. I guess I'm under the impression that the rates are going the other way.
Yeah.
5 times seems real excessive to me.
Sounded crazy, but I thought I'd mention it because that's what I thought I think. Haven't talked to the chief for a while. In fact, it'd be nice to grab the chief one of these months, maybe.
I think for whatever reason, my impression is I think activities like that in St. Albans seem to get blown out of proportion. Not blown out of proportion from the sense of what the crime is.
Yeah.
Just that the coverage that it gets seems to be. That happens in Plattsburgh, if that happens in Burlington, I don't think it gets the same coverage for whatever reason. That's just my own personal feeling. Yet, when we have a lot of good stuff going on, we don't necessarily get that coverage either. So,
the street crimes unit still intact.
Still intact.
Supported by the city and town.
Yeah, very active.
And again, not to suggest. Again, I saw in some interviews with Police Chief Gary Taylor. And not to suggest St. Albans is, that just about all the other communities around Vermont, around the country, don't have some of the same drug problems, which certainly is a huge problem, I think, just about for everybody these days. But
you're saying they don't?
No, I'm just saying, not to suggest that St. Albans stands out as having like a big drug problem compared to everybody else. Sounds like a lot of folks are dealing with these issues.
No, definitely.
I guess going back just on the crime thing again, St. Albans getting some obviously bad PR. Going back a couple months with the video, which we talked about a month ago. I think you weren't with us, but. Again, and I think the chief said City PD was looking to do some different policies if there's any kind of a serious incident to have higher ups told about this right away or something.
Yeah, I think the response time to report to the higher up is 48 hours if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. Whereas in the past they had left it to the shift commander, but now it has to go up even the next level up. So I think Chief has, we took a hit on how long it took to get higher up. And I think that new policy will address that piece of it.
Yeah, talking about some video that, as I say, went viral big time.
Right.
Any lingering fallout from that?
Yeah, I think we're starting to see people questioning prior arrests from
same
Officer Lawton. Right. So I think people are starting to come back on that.
Interesting.
They're piggybacking on that story. So Chief is addressing those, and we'll, like I said, we'll move forward. Yeah. I'd just like to comment on I think we being St. Albans was the first to sort of own the drug issue 10 years ago with Senator Leahy.
Senator Leahy coming to town. I think that Mayor Marty Manahan. No, I've certainly given you credit for that. I mean, a lot of communities would have tried to have, I suspect, run and hidden from that. St. Albans confronted that head on.
No doubt, and I think I think we've taken it head on with the street crimes unit.
Yeah.
Both communities invested in it. I think we're starting to see an impact. I know we've been seeing an impact, no doubt about it. And I think, I think the drug issue in St. Albans is less than it was.
Yeah.
So I think the concern of neighboring communities is that we're pushing those dealers out of the drug.
That's exactly
Yeah.
what I'm hearing, and I think that plays into why SAPD was able to do 24 hours of coverage for the town of Highgate.
In fact, Brendan, that was my next question, in fact. Again, we talked about this before. Any concern on the town's part that the city PD is,
I don't know that we've ever had reached consensus on it. We've talked about it. I've heard different opinions. My individual opinion is that the town's contracted with SAPD for a service.
Yeah.
If that service remains intact, they're an enterprise. They can contract with other towns just the same as they've contracted with us. And as long as our coverages are the same, it shouldn't be an issue to us.
And the coverage in the town is presumably the same as it,
We
as it should be.
receive staffing reports from Gary as a chief. We ask the questions. We ask about body count. We ask about what his force is at, and we know that they're doing everything they can to recruit officers with $10,000 sign-on bonuses, 100% benefits paid, top-notch pay. There's not much more that they can do to attract people. So.
Yeah, I don't think, as we've talked about before, it's not like there are a ton of people out there, young people looking to become police officers these
Not in
days.
this climate, no.
So I guess you could probably make that point about a lot of different industries and stuff.
I think Chief has been creative in his recruitment. Once again, the city has taken a hit from other communities because we may have recruited some away from those communities, and has not been those communities have not been appreciative of the fact that we have. But it works both ways. We've lost officers to Essex and Sheriff's Department and others. So. It's just the cycle that goes.
Yeah.
So.
How's staffing for the PD? Is it? Are you somewhat short at this point, or?
I think we're always short.
Always short, because you always have some people going through training, police academy that happens.
On probation. So I don't think it's significantly short. I think it's you always have one or two openings that. I know we were significantly short a year or two when I first came on board, but my sense is that we have filled those spots, and as I said, you always have one or two that you're always looking for. So.
But Brendan, you're comfortable? The town seems comfortable with the job City PD is doing? Or at least you are anyway.
Individually, and I think I could speak for maybe the office of the town manager,
Yeah.
and I say we feel comfortable, and we haven't noticed any decline since they began doing it 24 hours a week of coverage in Highgate.
Yeah.
And, I would just say from my perspective, I mean, I think the council cautiously approved the 24 hours, and it's only for 1 year to. For
Highgate, we're
Highgate,
talking.
right.
Okay.
And it's just for 1 year to feel out the situation and see if there are any impacts, see how it goes, see what Highgate's perception is.
Right. And it sounds like you ran into a situation in Highgate, which apparently the officials there were just not happy at all with the sheriff's department, the prior sheriff, and maybe they just felt like, hey, we're just gonna if we have an alternative here, maybe we'll try that for a year. So who knows what happens?
My own personal feeling, aside from being mayor, is I thought maybe Roger didn't get he didn't have a fair shake on showing them what he could do.
Yeah.
But I think you're right. He sort of took the brunt of the prior contract that was there with the sheriff's department. So I think Roger has made some changes, and I think he's heading in the right direction.
So we'll see what happens after the year contract's up or later in the year. But Tim, I guess I hadn't thought about the TIF controversy too much until I happened to pick up the messenger today with a lengthy letter from friend there, the state auditor, Doug Hoffer. Again, headline, offended that my audit is challenged. I'll just read a little bit. The St. Albans city manager has claimed that the auditor's criticism stems from his philosophical opposition to TIF, tax increment financing, as an economic development instrument. Next sentence by Hoffer. That is baseless and impugns the integrity of the work of my office. He also seen another criticism, I'm sure you read this, was feeling that the city and VEPC, Vermont Economic Progress Council, are kind of in bed together, seemed to be another criticism. But again, so I guess this story never dies, or?
Well, it sounds like Doug Hoffer isn't used to having a defeat.
Yeah, and again,
he doesn't handle it well. On top of that,
and VEPC pretty much corroborated or whatever.
Yeah, I mean it
back the city pretty much. I guess maybe some changes were made in like repayment of debt or something.
Yeah. I mean, I'm almost forgot what the three issues were that
was one dealing with the hotel
parking garage,
the parking and wait, it was part of it was where did the when you did the site work on the brownfields, where did you stop on the parking garage and what went to the hotel?
Okay.
And I would agree with Mr. Hoffer's statement that he accuses the city of saying that he doesn't have any favoritism towards economic development programs, and I would strongly agree with that statement that he does not. We have job training, we have the RDCs, and he, I would say, attacks them on a fairly regular basis.
And then you have the good old but-for issue. Again, a little hard to nail down.
Yeah, it is.
Again, whether development would have happened without TIF, or again,
a lot of people's belief is why do we even bother with the but-for? Don't we want development? Don't we want jobs? Don't we?
However you get it.
Right.
So the but-for is just a piece that gave legislators comfort in saying. We would not be giving these incentives out, but for the fact that this would not happen without those, and the individuals in the circles that I travel are of the belief that we want economic development, we want jobs. So why aren't we offering? And incentives it's a discussion that has pros and cons all across the country. Different states have different incentives. We don't have many. We have probably 3 that we can use when we're talking to businesses. And and Doug Hoffer is not a fan of any 3 or none of the 3. So it's something that is always on the legislators. But talk to a community, any community, and that's struggling to keep their youth, and economic development is the way to do it.
And you probably have no idea. I'm just curious about the timing. Do you know what prompted this latest kind of salvo from Hoffer?
Yeah, I think I don't know this for sure, but I know he testified before joint.
He mentioned
fiscal,
joint fiscal committee on July 29, and the issue came up again.
Yeah, I think it came up, and he still hasn't recovered from the defeat, and.
Have you met? Do you know him? Have you met him personally?
I think he might have spoken at one of our regional development corporations.
Yeah, but nobody you have any personal relationship with.
My only interaction or have seen him in action is in the State House. I mean, a lot of legislators like him.
Yeah.
For some of the stands he has. So. It's,
but just these incentive programs, he's clearly, obviously, no fan of these programs in general, it seems. Brendan, have you ever met the auditor?
I haven't met the auditor, but I will say that it's really unfortunate that even after VEPC comes out and totally exonerates the city of all of his claims, they work it out, and then all of a sudden we get hit with a letter like this in the paper. It makes no sense. I mean, that type of behavior is beneath the office of the auditor, in my opinion.
Speaking of TIF, tax increment financing, any more chapters of TIF coming down the road, Tim? Or are you pretty much out of time anyway with that?
We're not out of time yet.
Not out of time.
There may be, there's discussions going on. We'd like to get through the 2 projects, the Maiden Lane project and the Main Street project, both scheduled.
Big projects.
Both scheduled
for, the questions that have come up recently are, what happened to the construction trailer on Main Street, and why is there still a hole in the ground? So people are concerned that we'll end up like Newport.
Not to mention or Burlington.
Or Burlington, yeah. And
Yeah.
we're so far from that.
Yeah.
The trailer, the construction trailer was too big for Main Street. Took up too many parking spots. Marty Manhan negotiated a deal with a vacant storefront for them to use as their construction. So that worked out well. The trailer's gone, opened up those parking spaces. As far as the hole is concerned, that soil was contaminated, and it needs to be hauled away to upstate New York, and in the amount of 8,000 yards.
Really?
And
Boy, how many truck? I hate to ask.
Well,
how many truckloads?
I don't know how many truckloads, but I do know that a truckload, if one truck can do 3 trips a day.
Oh yeah, one truck.
So
Wow.
gets filled, goes to
And it's
whatever.
literally got to go to the upstate.
Has to go to a specific site, and I
Really?
think that's the closest one. So
Vermont has no such sites, or not
to
anywhere
handle
around.
that, not
Yeah.
to handle the contamination
Really?
that it is. So once that's done, I think Dom shared with me the dates of construction. I think one is end of October. I think that might be the Main Street one, and then the Maiden Lane would be end of December.
So they'll go. They'll go through winter
tentative
as the
timeframe
plan.
right now. Yep.
And of course, one building left. There's still one building on
What's on
Congress
left?
Street. That just wasn't part of.
No, it's part. City owns it.
Okay.
But there's historic preservation, and so we are getting a Vermont Community Development block grant.
Oh yeah.
And when you receive state/federal dollars, the block grant dollars funnel down through HUD, and when you receive those, you're sort of at the mercy of adhering to the rules, which is one of them is historic preservation.
Pretty
So-
stringent.
Ideally, from your, would you like to demo that building also, or not necessarily? Or
For me,
not?
I mean, you go to big cities, you go to Philadelphia, you go to Boston, and you
Yeah.
always see some type of
Yeah.
scenario like that.
Yeah.
It doesn't bother me.
Um,
I know it strikes a nerve of a number of people in town. But
Yeah.
For me, it's
But that building does have some.
so it used to be owned by Steve Wunsch, and Steve Wunsch,
Okay.
former building trades instructor
Right.
at the Tech Center, went through it and maintained its not only the structure but the historic piece of it
Really?
in many aspects. So unlike the other 2 buildings that were torn down, or 3 buildings if you look at it that way,
Yeah.
so they thought it had significant value on the historic preservation, and thus, so the city will try to move it. Right now, though, they oversee it, and they have tenants, so they're trying to accommodate those tenants. But in the long run, I don't know that we would hold on to it if we have an opportunity to sell it.
But project pretty much on track. Yeah, the Burlington situation sounds. I guess Brookfield's financial folks sounds like they hear the city council president of Burlington, Kurt Wright, every morning on WVMT.
Oh, yeah.
But of course, they get into that issue. But yeah, it sounds like a pretty frustrating issue in the Queen City. But you're not looking to have any repeat of that up here.
No,
Not that we know of, no.
Not that you know of.
you're general contracting it, so.
Right. And
You got a local
You've got control of it.
contractor, of course.
DW, and I mean, it's in talking to one the financial institutions who are involved in it like the structure of, of the tenant side of it. It gives them a lot of confidence. So,
And of course, you got CC, obviously the Planning Community
CCD,
College of Vermont to move down,
hospital.
Northwestern Medical Center, grabbing some space.
and those give the funders a lot of confidence in the project. So.
Yeah. I should know, this is a live show, at least if you're watching us live. Love to get phone calls. Our number 528-5315, 528-5315 if you feel so inclined. Brendan, let's talk on St. Albans Town. How are talking about projects? PW Garage, how's that moving along?
Doing well. The red iron and the IMPs all landed. We've got something that's starting to look like a building. We want to get the walls and the roof up, and then we're going to work on the radiant and the foam, and then we're going to pour an 8-inch slab for the floor.
Will that project go through winter also? Keep
I mean,
going?
the garage project tentatively scheduled to end around the beginning of the year. We might be moving in as soon as like January,
Really?
last update I got. The salt shed project, we're working to try to be able to bid that this fall. But again, we're at the mercy of a V-Trans grant, and that process is a little bit slower.
For the salt shed.
Just the salt shed. We have a demarcation line in the project, and they're two separate projects. They're managed separately by the same manager, but
And again, we're talking no taxpayer dollars at all, right? I mean,
well, we own the local option tax fund, but it's coming out of there, and it's no general fund dollars at all. We're using some impact fee money. We're paying for it in cash. We have a $376,000 grant from V-Trans for the salt shed that's going to be very helpful, and then we'll have a good chunk of change left over to spend on a town hall, which is what we're working on now.
all right. Yeah, I'll get into that in a second. And again, speaking of the Public Works Garage, again, another issue is what to do with the current site when that moves to Brigham Road. Is that issue getting some attention now, or not too much right now?
Not yet. We're really focused on what to do with our town hall.
Yeah.
I mean, they can't have more than 2 air conditioners on the same circuit without kicking a
Really?
breaker. The air quality in the building is poor.
Oh, really?
A lot of allergens and dust. We've got bathrooms that I don't know that I would want my own personal employees to have to deal with.
Really? Well, it sounds like you have some issue. Sounds like from your point of view, you can't imagine doing a renovation there instead of a new building?
If there was some serious grant money available to us, I'd consider it. But
Yeah.
other than that, we'd have to buy the old bowling alley. We'd have to. That soil seems to be sandy. We could probably do an expansion to the cat box septic system that we have now if we ever needed to. We're at the limit. We're getting close to the limit of the number of employees that septic system is
Really?
designed to handle. And then to put in an elevator shaft and upgrade the inside and outside of that building, they did a study on it. The select board commissioned a study, I think in 2013 or 14, and the cost was around $2 million in renovations then. And that didn't include buying the building next door and putting in additional parking and then saving space and designing a future septic system. So I can only imagine that we'd be looking at $3 to $3.5 million at least. I mean, we'd have to come up with some serious grant money to be able to make that feasible, because at the end of the day, we're operating at about 9,000 square feet. That needs assessment that we had done, just touched on, that said we needed 11,000. We're looking around the community. We've looked at 2 existing buildings. One's a little bit more attractive than the other. We're talking to that building owner, and then we're looking for opportunity. If you've got land that you either own or think would be a good fit, point it out to us. We had an infrastructure committee comprised of an attorney, a real estate broker, an engineer. We had some really good people on there, and a former town manager, and we're reviewing the work that they did. They had subcommittees that reviewed, different parcels. I think they went over 20 different vacant parcels of land, so we want to review that roster and see if there's any additions that have come on the market since then. But at the end of the day, it's really cost prohibitive to put in a new, call it access road or driveway into a building that needs to service that number of people and that volume of traffic on a main road, because then you end up with traffic upgrades. The infrastructure committee had kind of decided that their area that they were most content with for a new town hall was in the area of exit 19, because they felt that was near where our population is growing the most and would provide the best service.
And in fact, you did have a site owned by, I think, Sam Smith, former selectman, that
Right.
you were...
He had
still
offered
in.
to donate 5 acres. He
So is
offered-
that particular site still under consideration?
He's working with a development company for something that I can't speak on, but that might be an option for us in the future if they flesh out a proposal. He's still said that he's willing to talk about it, but he wants to get through the process that he's working on right now with this private entity.
Well, it sounds like you got a ways to go. This is still kind of early.
Well, this
sounds like
one building
fairly
that we
early
looked
stages.
at, if we could figure out how to make it work, we could have something on the ballot as soon as March.
Really, of course, a building that I've heard about that we may have talked about before is the Energizer building.
It's not that one.
No,
We did
not that
tour
one.
that one. I spoke with Pat Malone from Malone Properties by
Yeah.
email a few times, and he purchased that building for a few $1 million, and he's put another few into it.
Oh.
That's
And of course, Peerless is still using some of that on, I guess, a
18 months
temporary
roughly.
basis.
Yeah, so we toured that building
Huh.
in the spring, early summer. It's really large. You know, if we could afford as a community to go spend $15 million on buying that building,
Yeah.
renovating the front office space, and then turning the rest of the conditioned space into like indoor athletic fields or something like that, that'd be great. But
You don't think 15 mils hanging around, huh?
no, we're trying to spend 2 to 3 if we can help it.
Interesting. But there's another building that you have some interest in?
Definitely, and we're working on that. And you
In
know,
St. Albans town, I assume.
Oh, absolutely.
I assume not in
I
the
would-
city?
Well, maybe
actually,
we can lease
I-
it.
I was just-
Tim, have
Why
you got
don't you do-
anything for these folks in St. Albans City?
How about
Could
you
help
do a
these
tip?
guys out?
Do a tip on the Fonda site and lease us the building.
I was just going to jump in and say we're courting them in the city. We're trying to get them in the city.
Yeah, no, they.
Is there any place in Rutland, has anybody ever done that? Like, has Rutland Town ever had their municipal offices in Rutland
Well-
City? Is there any precedent for that?
No, but town schools in the city and
course,
parts of the
right.
city schools in the town.
That I'm aware of, yeah.
But
So,
no, I did.
interesting.
If we put that on the ballot, I would hate to see what would become of me. My wife might have gotten out of this marriage a little early.
So you hope to at least say nail down a point. Of course, we're in
I'd like to-
September here as we speak. The calendar year is 2/3 over.
I'd like to either, personally, I think it's an ambitious goal, but looking at how quickly the city's been able to mobilize on different projects when they seize opportunity, I think we either need to find land or a building that can be retrofitted and get a proposal done for that building, and I'd like to have it on the ballot by March.
In March.
And if it's land, I'd like to have that on the ballot, and I'd like the proposal for what to do with the land by November.
Interesting.
We've got 2 elections to play with next year, but that building is,
That's the biggie with Public Works Garage underway.
Right.
The municipal buildings, the biggie before you guys now.
we can't,
That's a huge issue, yeah, a big one.
yeah, I mean, we have employees that, you know, they work in conditions that aren't probably the best, you know, and then we have a vault that's running out of space rapidly. We do a large volume of land records every month. Kirk's office is always busy, but we just...
Jim, any vault space the city can lease
No,
to the
we
town or anything?
We might have a little bit,
No.
hold you over, but
Yeah, hold us over. No, if you say that, we won't build a building for another 10 years.
No, that sounds like the big issue for you folks at this point, huh?
We need to figure that out, and then we need to start going after amenities. Last night, we approved a
That's
sidewalk
right, you did
ordinance.
meet last night, because of Labor Day being Monday, you put it off for a night.
We approved a sidewalk ordinance that's now in its appeal period for the next 60 days. But that in itself includes an impact fee for sidewalks. I personally was adamantly opposed to it, but it passed 4-1.
Really?
And
So
I think
an
it's
impact fee for sidewalks.
yeah, if you're on a road that the town has identified as needing a concrete sidewalk, it's a $35 per linear foot fee on your road frontage on that particular road.
Huh,
And then if you're on a secondary road, it's $17.50. And then the town is supposed to take that money, put it in a sidewalk development fund of sorts. And I'd have to reread the ordinance again to get a concrete understanding. A lot of this might just get made up as we go along, but we have to begin investing some serious money in sidewalks. We've put $8,800 into the industrial park sidewalk to finish that up. That looks great, but we need to seize the next opportunity. And I think the mayor and I both agree that the next 2 opportunities that would be the easiest for the town to go after would be connecting Congress Street to Hardack, and then connecting the end of the Fairfield Street sidewalk up to the hospital. We've got about 130, 140 feet in play up there on Fairfield Street. He's got a quote for about $10,000. If you check our master sidewalk pedestrian plan, it's, you know, we've identified that in our at least our top 20, you know, most important sidewalk segments to finish up, and we put a price on it, you know, something just for planning purposes, and it's a heck of a lot higher than $10,000, and we have a commitment from the city manager's office for winter maintenance, so it just makes perfect sense. I'm going to bring that to the board on the 16th. Now, we've got a really good partner in the city right now. Every time I have an issue, I bring it to Tim, Marty, Dominic, same with Carrie, and we've gotten the best response that we could hope for every time.
Anybody talking water wastewater these days, or is that not getting any discussion?
We had a meeting today about an allocation that's going before the city council, just to touch base on it, and it went extremely well. We walked out with a handshake instead of an angry face and getting ready to call an attorney. So it's, we're moving along as, the best we can, and it's bleeding into what can we do on amenities, what can we do for sidewalks, what can we do for government operations to reduce costs, how can we better help the police department? I mean, now that water and sewer and the lawsuit in particular seems to be behind us, we're able to work on all the things that we should be working on together to make St. Albans a better community as a whole. And a lot of that's Tim's leadership. I mean, you want to talk about somebody that lives, eats, and sleeps St. Albans, you're looking at him. I mean, there could not be a better person in the mayor's office right now. I mean that.
That's like a ringing endorsement for the mayor there. Tim, what's biggest projects for the city? What are the kind of the biggest items on the city's agenda at this point?
Well, I think for the city manager, he wants to get through the projects on Main Street and Main Lane.
That's obviously a big one that's out there. Yeah.
The one that's is hanging out there that we need to start looking at is the lifespan of the pool is coming to an end.
Is that right?
That's something we've started the discussion. We did have a engineering firm talk to us, gave us some plans. We weren't real happy. We sort of started over.
About a new pool or renovation?
Well, but that was part of what was presented. Do we renovate? Do we put a new pool in?
Right.
Do we do it on the same site? Do we look at a different site? So the existing pool, I believe, is
boy, it's been there for a while.
Let's see, 17, I think 36 years.
Really, and that's pretty good life for a pool.
Yeah, I think in discussions with Dom, I think 30 years is a maximum. And the ironic thing is, so when our pool was built 33 years ago, the Land and Water Conservation Fund, which is a federal grant program, which historically was supposed to take all the fees from the offshore drilling rights and compile it. So the thinking was there's an environmental impact maybe on the ocean with these drilling fees. That money should be diverted to the 50 states and create outdoor recreation. So that's a form of BOR, Bureau of Outdoor Recreation, which you may see the former Stowe hockey rink, the former the Barrie hockey rink were BOR projects. And many pools were built in that 33, 35 time frame, including St. Albans, where we got $250,000 to construct the pool. Now all these pools are coming to the end of their life. Winooski has been without a pool. I think they're rebuilding.
They're talking about maybe another.
Rutland's in that same situation. Hartford was in that same situation. St. Albans is. So.
And let me guess, there's not hundreds of thousands.
No, that
outside money is still hanging around.
Yeah, that grant program is still there, but the awards are minimal. So you might, I think if I remember right, the last I knew, and this has been years. The allocation to Vermont was $750,000, of which half goes to Forest Parks and Recreation on the state side to work on forest for state parks, and then you had $350 that was divvied up throughout the whole. Whereas years ago it used to be, $1.5 million, and that was divvied up among communities or something close to that. So it's a situation, it's a situation where we're looking at what the options are, knowing that the existing one, a lot of work went into the current pool to get it up and running this year.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, a lot of work, and so that's high on the priority list for sure. Completing the Kingman Street streetscape, and then Federal Street as well. So those are two that hopefully would break ground in 2020. We have a couple. We're going to have a couple vacancies on Main Street. TD Bank is
right. Good point.
Is
in fact, I guess that office is closing November 15, I believe.
Well, I heard October, but still this year. And as you know, I mean, it's sad to see the change in that. You know, when you had Franklin Oil Bank, you had 125, 150 employees.
A bustling place.
Coming and going every day.
But again, there's activity upstairs in that building?
Well, it's third and fourth floors were converted to 8 apartments. Excuse me. And then second floor is prepared for office space. And then down below would be retail or some form. So,
but nothing at this point. Who knows what happens downstairs where the bank is now?
Right. No one.
Yeah, that's a big change. Yeah, that place used to be one bustling place.
So and you know, so we'll focus on trying to fill those gaps.
And you said another vacancy coming up downtown too. Did you say there were 2, or was there a rough?
Well, you've had the Catalyst and the Red House Suites are moving over to Lake Street.
Okay.
So that leaves that spot next to Twigs. From all indications, I think our retailers on Main Street had a good summer.
Yeah.
A lot of tourism, a lot of activity. People walking the street. If you go out on Main Street at noon on any day, any nice day, it was amazing the number of people you would see on the street for whatever reason, whether it's going to lunch or visiting or whatever the case was.
So downtown, you think downtown's in reasonably healthy shape, or?
I think it's in good shape.
Yeah.
I think it can always. There's always that element of being tedious.
Yeah.
I mean, one storefront could change all that. You know, if someone were to close. So we're always having conversations about where the next retailer or next business would be.
Yeah.
Trying to stay focused on that.
Yeah. Physically, how's the city? Again, we're two-thirds of the way through the calendar year, pretty early on in the fiscal year. City in decent financial shape. Nothing crazy going on financially?
Have you heard something?
It comes to mind. No.
No,
one thing I hear about getting back to TIF. I mean, I've always heard concern from some people just about, making the TIF, whatever the bond payments over the years and stuff. But no, I haven't.
The income is ahead of what was projected.
Yeah.
So that's not an issue. And the
city population is pretty stable. Is the city still losing?
City's dropped. I said the most recent one I
up.
saw was 6,500. The town is 55.
Boy, I bet the town's 6.
Are you over 6?
I think the town's over. Is that right?
So it's not long before the town's going to overtake the city.
I agree. Because the figure in the city going back, I guess, obvious some years, my mind is about 7,500.
Yeah, 72, 7,500.
No, the town will catch up to the city.
Yeah.
Eventually it'll surpass, and it's going to be made possible by continuing to utilize this existing agreement on water and sewer. You're going to see more residential projects get built in the town. You're going to see a lot of people, as the city gets crafty with its bylaws, starting to build up. You're going to see additional housing, but again, we've got the Vivian Lane apartments by the complex. That's a big number of people. That's houses a lot of people. You'll start to see projects like that in the city, is my guess. But we've got more land available, so that's
you guys have the land for sure.
Yeah.
And I would just say, I mean. Tell me if I'm wrong, Brendan, but the town of St. Albans is starting to experience maybe some problems that had not come to light, 10 years ago.
Just with the population.
The population in some of the tighter, the larger apartment complexes. I mean, you're dealing with.
Our health
personal
officer's
conflicts.
Our health officer's busy. I mean, we had a vicious dog hearing last year that stemmed out of an incident at one of the apartment buildings off of Route 7. It's, that's something that you would expect a city to deal with more so than the town, but.
And I think the town is starting to see more of that.
Our health officer, Fire Chief Cross, he's a busy guy. He's always out.
I don't think a lot of people realize that.
Yeah, he's busy. I mean, he earns every nickel he makes.
You're starting to see some different dynamics.
Yeah.
The town has never had a number of apartments per se, all in one spot. You might have had a duplex or whatever, but
there's some pretty big
the one on
complexes.
Route 7 and the one up across from the complex. Even Hawks Nest. Not that that's your That's not your
You
area.
start with, you start with Gracebrook, Hawks Nest,
Yeah,
and you
yeah,
start with
yeah.
up by the complex, and you start at the
Yeah.
Goodrich buildings down
Yeah,
off of Route
yeah.
7. I mean, that's only going to continue to grow, I would think. I mean, we provide affordable housing for Chittenden County. As a real estate broker, I can say that I've seen a major uptick in traffic of Chittenden County residents looking to become Franklin County residents and
Yeah.
join our commuters on the way down 89 and back home in the afternoon. Taxes and the cost of living in Chittenden County, they're high.
Yep.
And we offer a pretty reasonable, you see it in Highgate, you see it in Sheldon, Swanton. It's going to be a major source of growth for us.
And, as Brendan, just to reinforce what Brendan said, I ran into Christine Stell yesterday and asked her how her business is going relative to real estate, and she said she didn't use the words 2007, but she said they were very busy, and
This is as good as it's going to get.
Yep.
This might be, I mean, I'm 22. This could be the best real estate economy that I will ever work in. It very well could be. You've got people moving and shaking that haven't thought about moving and shaking for 10, 15 years. You've got properties that haven't been in play for development for 10, 15 years. The Great Recession, that hit in my childhood, and I saw a lot of people lose their jobs. I had friends who had, their dad was the manager of a factory that was shut down. We saw that. We saw housing sales decline. It reinforces the fact that we need to be appreciative of the economy that we have today, and we need to, Tim is working extremely hard at FCIDC to capitalize on every opportunity that comes through the door for the industrial park, and then there's Swanton Park. I mean, Franklin County right now, it's been kind of not a joke, but a saying, you've got Franklin and Chittenden County growing and the rest of the state shrinking. I mean, what are they doing right? Guys like him, they do their jobs extremely well. But yeah, this reinforced what Christine said. She's a real estate broker with RE/MAX right on Kingman Street. This could very well be the best real estate economy I will ever work in my entire life. This is it's unbelievable. You throw a reasonably priced house on the market and you've got a bidding war within 48 hours.
Really?
It's nuts.
Interesting.
It's a total seller's market right now. 2-3 years ago it was a buyer's market. Inventory is extremely tight. You've got people that are selling their houses that probably wouldn't have if it weren't for this market. It boils back to what can we do as a state to keep people in Vermont when you've got a shortage of housing, especially affordable housing. You've got homes that would be selling for $215, selling for $240, $250, just because the market is so strong and there's nothing out there to buy. So that's going to come to a head at some point. Every market goes through a cycle. I think we're starting to see indicators that we could be getting to the end of our cycle, and we could see probably a market correction. It probably wouldn't be the worst thing for buyers if we were to hit a reset button, but the real estate market's been a wild, wild west up here. You throw anything within a certain radius of the interstate on the market at a reasonable price. It doesn't matter if it's on a dirt road in Fairfield or in a condo in the city, or it's been bidding wars. I mean, if you're reasonably priced, it's been a bidding war. It's nuts.
Tim, speaking of your day job with Franklin County Industrial Development Corp., anything to impart? Any big news to throw at us with your day job?
Nothing concrete, but we hope to sell 16 acres to 3 different entities within the industrial park before year's end.
In the town industrial park?
Town industrial park.
Really?
Which is huge for our organization in terms of paying down debt.
Yeah.
It gives us financial resources to finish the infrastructure in the park, which includes some road development, lighting, sewer pump station, running power. So there's, we're optimistic. We haven't had much luck, but the old saying is, once you sell that first one, then no one wants to be the first. But I've got 3 entities who are very interested, and we have a purchase option on one. As soon as we go to the town to do a subdivision, the 12th of September, and once that happens, we'll do a purchase and sale agreement on one of those lots, and then we are still going back and forth, but it looks very optimistic on a 10-acre lot. So.
Is it helpful from a marketing point of view? I would think it would. Again, Vermont, the concern about a flat, if not slightly declining, and certainly graying, high card-carrying member of the graying population around here. But northwest Vermont, Chittenden and Franklin, certainly showing life and stuff. Is that helpful to you that you can, hey, we're here in northwestern Vermont where things are growing, or is that not a huge factor?
Well, I would take that over the opposite any day. I mean, many of my colleagues are trying to figure out how to keep people, at least even keel. Wyndham County, Bennington, Springfield, they're struggling to maintain population, and they have infrastructure in place. You look at Springfield and the tool.
Of course, the old machine tool industry.
Machine tool industry. It's I was just down there in June, and it's interesting to see what the impact is. I mean, they'll be tearing down a number of buildings that have just fallen in such level of disrepair, and businesses have walked away from them. So they have other struggles than just population loss. But as I spoke at Rotary yesterday, and my comment has been for the last 2 years that there's hundreds and hundreds of rural counties across this country that would trade places with us in a heartbeat.
I bet.
We're talking 55,000 people. We have a rising medium income, and I'm not saying everything's
not perfect.
Yeah, it's not perfect, but we are rising household income, population value, or property values have either escalated or at least remained stable. So if you invested in a property, you're not going to end up upside down. You have companies you actually have major companies investing major dollars in the region and hiring. I think there's a lot of good stuff that we can showcase moving forward.
Yeah,
the active downtown. I mean, people love the downtown. People love the lake. We have the resources we have, and the assets are just
proximity to Montreal doesn't hurt, I assume.
But Montreal and the Canadian population for sure. Being close to Burlington doesn't hurt.
You got a lot of things going for the region, it would seem. Brendan, kudos again. I logged some time in the Bay Park today and yesterday, and again got out on the benches at the end of the Bay Dock, and it sounds like off here you're giving all praise to Alan Master, your Public Works Director, but that's a nice touch.
Yeah, Alan came to the Parks Committee in the spring. He said, I found this company that they can do colored seal coats. He said, what if we did, some green seal coating and fixed up the dock and put out some benches and some flowers for people and some trash receptacles and really made it a place where people could congregate and enjoy.
Yeah, good touch.
We said, go for it. And, I've got to give a little bit of credit to the vision of that project to Bruce Cheeseman, our vice chair. He's been talking for years about wanting to turn this into more of a pier instead of a dock. Last year we pulled all of our slips out for ADA concerns. That helped get us to the point where we were ready to throw some money into making the dock a little bit more inviting to just people who were looking to sit. We're seeing some good traffic, and again, kind of Bruce's vision, and then you've got Alan implementing it with the Public Works crew. I can't think of the number off the top of my head, but when I heard how much we had into it cost-wise, it's remarkably cheap. I'll come back with that number for you when we do our October show.
It looks like, certainly looks like by the looks of it, as I was sitting out of the dock yesterday, St. Albans Bay Marina looks like they're having a much better summer than last year. They got, of course, they had the full season, I guess, but by the looks of it, it looks like they're doing better.
They're on the right trajectory. They're working really hard. They're going to shows in Canada. They're going to shows all over New England. We're here if Chuck Lowe or Rainey Boisano needs anything. The two owners, they've invested a lot of money in that project. Interesting note, Saturday, either this past Saturday or the Saturday before, I got a text from the city manager, Dominic. And he said, I've been spending a lot of time in the bay with my family, and I think it would be a good idea for the town to start going after some facade grants and start doing some facelifts and helping to facilitate that. We've got that kind of a vision in our mind. We're looking at what could we do with the road. That's a state road right now. Could we turn it into a Class 1? What are the ramifications of that with the state in exchange for us taking over the road?
Again, that's in Lake Road, Route 36, from the city to the bay.
Right. And then what would the state contribute as far as infrastructure? Would they help us redesign that tricky intersection by the bay store and the dock? What would that do for parking for existing businesses?
Which it could certainly use, yeah.
But we need to focus some serious attention on our bay. That is a crown jewel. In August, we were lucky. We had the governor in town twice.
Right.
He signed Act 76 ceremoniously. We had a regional EPA director, the Speaker of the House, Treasurer Pierce, countless officials in attendance, and they really like Bay Park. We love Bay Park, but we all agreed that the only issue in front of us is the water. So they've freed up $55 million a year for the next 20 years to spend on clean water. So what does that mean for a small town like us? I don't quite know yet, but we're paying attention to it. So we're looking at how do we take the existing building stock that's down there now, make it more attractive, and then how do we capture as much of that clean water funding as possible to clean up the water in the bay. Every time we talk about throwing any money in the bay, you hear cynical people say, clean up the water first before you bother to clean up the paint on a store. But we're going to take a two-prong approach.
Of course, Labor Day marking the unofficial end of summer. Hopefully we'll see some more summer. But Tim, good, I know Sunflower Festival, you certainly were a key person in that. That go reasonably well for its inaugural event?
I think so. We still have sunflowers popping up in downtown. We worked closely with, and once again, give credit to Alan Mashter in preparing the sites down in the industrial park, and Scott Magnan did all the planning.
Lucky me, I usually go down Georgia Shore Road every day to Neville's house and to feasting on that beautiful field of sunflowers. That was great. That was a treat.
And we had two in the about 20 acres in the industrial park. Wow. We could do more, but the two concerts we had, we attracted about 400 people.
Yeah.
And that's it's an activity. People enjoyed it. It was very, very mellow. Where we got a lot of kudos was we reached out to Dee Christie at the high school and had two high school seniors who were her art students and painted a lot of the downtown windows and really made a difference.
Yeah,
speaking of the dock, there's some nice artwork, I assume, from the festival down by the dock.
One of the girls did that as well. Windows were painted at Town Hall, City Hall. So we've taken that. The city's actually has just reached out to the same two ladies, Autumn Mahini and Caitlin, her mother's a Harrison. Sorry, Caitlin, I went blank on, but
Fielding?
So, Caitlin Fielding, thank you.
Thanks.
So they're coming back to do fall painting.
Oh, great.
So they're Caitlin's starting on Friday. She's going to go to Hampton Inn and start painting, and I just think the windows are really a sort of a lost resource to let them go, and they're not going to be promoting anything other than just a consistent theme. So it's going to be foliage, and then we'll move on to a winter and spring theme, but the city will help offset some of that cost, and so that was a great outcome for the festival. We had good weather. Maybe we can work. We know we can work on our timing relative to the blooming of the sunflowers.
Yeah.
The Monday before the So the Monday and the festival was on Friday. There was one down in the industrial park that had bloomed.
Oh, yeah.
Fortunately, we had some hot weather, and it really came around. So we'll work on our timing. I think we're going to bump it out to mid-August next year.
Yeah.
We won't compete with the Franklin County Field Days, which sort of we messed up on that and not taking that into consideration. So we'll work around things, and so it worked out well.
And you have a partner down with the town.
Yeah, the town and city worked evenly on it, and they worked. Actually, I'd say the town probably did a little bit more than their share with Alan preparing these sites, and I think everyone was happy with the 5K run. Had 38 runners, and so,
No, sounds like a good inaugural effort. Speaking of your day job, as you mentioned, field days, you got any involvement with Franklin County State Airport? Do you come into play at all in the efforts, I guess, to enlarge that? Does that come under your bailiwick in the slightest bit?
We actually have a meeting tomorrow morning, a conference call. The town of Highgate had received funds for a feasibility study to run water out, actually beyond the airport. Jim Harrison owns the sand pit out there, which is pretty much maximized its sand use, if you will.
Yeah.
And Jim's looking at developing that in some type of industrial park.
As in city water, as in
Right, Swanton Village water.
Swanton Village.
So the feasibility is looking at what that could mean.
No, really.
And my offices are right adjacent to the airport.
No, is that right? You're right out there?
Right, we're right on 78, and I've noticed on local subdivision efforts, we've got land that's been sitting dormant for decades that's starting to see some development type activity. They've already run a water line to the school on Route 78. The natural gas is already right in front of my office, runs to Highgate. You put water in there to help with people that need sprinkler systems. A lot of these operations are going to probably be storage related, warehousing, and they're not going to have a giant number of employees. So you'll be able to do some in-ground septics with all that sand out there. The sky's the limit with Highgate and that area of Highgate right now.
So was the talk I heard trying to get maybe some like FedEx planes, stuff like that, a bigger airport to accommodate that, or?
I think that's all on the wish list.
Is that right?
I don't think there's anything concrete.
I just got noticed, being a neighboring property owner, there's going to be some serious surveying going on for the runway extension.
Because of course Habitat for Humanity had their warehouse, whatever, they had to get out of there, did get out of there. And field days, is the field days in danger, do you know? I've heard.
I don't know that field days are endangered in I would say immediate danger, but I know there have been conversations about them potentially finding a new site, which I find it very difficult to believe that with all the infrastructure that they have invested in, that the state is going to bump them out of there. I think there'd be some political pressure put on the V-Trans to do that, but time will tell.
Well, we'll see. Down to about 2 minutes left. Brendan, anything you want to take a minute or so at that we haven't covered?
I just want to reinforce the fact that the town and city haven't been cooperating as well as we are now for many years, and a lot of that's due to the city and the town manager. They're working really well together. Our public works departments work really well together. Our fire departments almost. Operationally, they're separate, but they operate as a team. There's a lot of crossover there. We share the same police department. We're looking at every opportunity we have in front of us to save our taxpayers money and provide a better community for them to enjoy. Where I sit, we couldn't be in a better spot.
And speaking of the town as we speak, of course, if you're watching us, folks, head down to the Bay Park. Talked about the Bay Park. The Farmers Market is underway. And look forward to the Northwest Farmers Market Saturday on Taylor Park. Nice photos. Also, the photo exhibit on Taylor Park, Tim, was some great photos I came across the other day.
So just
you got about half a minute anyway.
I agree with Brendan on cooperation. It only makes sense. People come up to me all the time and say, "Hey, I think it's great that you're working with the town," and vice versa. So I think the general population would like to see that. A couple of things. You have the playground at the Collins Pearly Complex having their ribbon cutting on Saturday from 11 to 1, which has been a great asset. We also, the Football Association is doing a ribbon cutting before the BFA football game Friday night. It's a new snack bar with handicap accessible bathrooms. So you
Some
don't
real
have to-
nice bathrooms.
So I would encourage people to stop by and check that out.
Right.
And the Mill River Brewery is hosting a water barrel and silent auction on my photos tomorrow night, starting at 6 o'clock. So
Very good. A lot of stuff going on.
a lot of stuff going on.
Thanks very much to St. Albans Mayor Tim Smith and Brendan Deso, the St. Albans Town Select Board Chair. Thanks, folks.
Thank you.
Hope to
Thank
see
you,
you next month. And thanks to my man Zach out there for doing all the hard work on this show. Thanks for watching, folks. Flip your channel just a little bit. We'll have a sports show for you in half an hour. Thanks for watching us here on Northwest Access TV. See ya.